the more that you become one of the living master geniuses on this planet. If you had any idea of the scope of what you could be, if you truly access your potential, it would floor you. Because every single one of us has the potential to be a messianic figure, to be the savior of the world. We all have that potential, and we're all doing it to varying degrees as we start awakening. Well, thank you. Look, I could yak about this all day, but we got a lot of slides to do. So let's do some slides. The galaxy is pumping out these waves of energy which are now changing the solar system, and we're going to talk about that in very concrete terms. You're going to see all the proof for that. You're also going to see the proof that the fossil record has been undergoing... I'm not getting any... Oh, okay. Never mind. The fossil record is undergoing 26 million year cycles as well as 62 million year cycles, as you see in this graph here. What's causing that to happen? All life on Earth spontaneously changing in even intervals of time. Oh, it's got to be some big rock out there that's spinning around. 62 million years is not some big rock. That's like a third of the entire orbit of the galaxy, basically. It's about a fourth. Because the galaxy is about 240 million year orbit. 62 is about, roughly speaking, it's a quarter. Might be exactly a quarter. That might be the point. What did the ancients know, and why must we remember now? What do pyramids really do? Pyramids are harnessing the source field. We're going to get into that in a minute. We know, and we can prove now, that Atlantean civilization is nothing new. These pyramids around the world are not something that was built in conventional history. It was built before then. Off the western tip of Cuba, as you see in this map here, at this Guanahacabibias, I can't even pronounce that, the Guanahacabibias Peninsula, right off the tip of that, on the western tip of Cuba, you go a mile down. Well, it's not quite a mile, but it's a long ways down under the surface of the ocean. And down there you find a submerged city, as this link says on BBC News. This is the only officially released side-scan sonar photograph of what was actually seen down there. Does that look like random pieces of sand on the seafloor? No. This is what it actually looks like if you reconstruct it in a computer. That's a computer graphic rendering of what you just saw right here. Is everybody with me? That's not something that just showed up as a result of random geological processes. That's a human-built structure. This area could not have been above the ground and above sea level prior to 11,000 years ago. Paulina Zalitsky is here in a cave in Cuba, which used to be the Atlantean highlands, looking at inscriptions on the cave wall. They're precisely the same as inscriptions that they saw being painted on the walls of these submerged cities that they sent submersible submarine probes into. What you're seeing here is a diagram of the energy fields in the solar system, which are, of course, concentric rings emanating out from the center of the sun. They also saw these cross formations painted on inscriptions in these submerged cities. Now, here is the only other photograph that she's ever released. This is a still frame from a much longer film where she's flying a submersible through this city. What do you see in the window of her monitor? Would you like to see it more up close? That's not just a little piece of sand on the bottom of the ocean. That's a pyramid. Would you like to see a pyramid in Egypt that it looks very similar to? Here we go. This is called the Bent Pyramid of Dashur on the right. It's almost identical to what you see on the left. And that is submerged off the western tip of Cuba. It's down there right now. What are we doing by not going and looking at it? Why did they sell this story to National Geographic and it just so happened to never make it out in 2003? National Geographic did a 360-degree contract. They bought all the rights. It was supposed to be the biggest thing ever to come out in 2003, and guess what happened? Nothing. Well, what we have now is evidence that somebody out there who's responsible for building this seal into the dollar knew that these pyramids harness some sort of energy field. because what you're seeing is clearly an energetic, non-physical structure going down onto the top of the pyramid here. This grants the next question. I talked about the time field. I talked about the Russians. Is there a technology in which you can build something that will take this natural energy that makes physical matter, that's flowing through everything, and harness that energy in a given direction? The answer is yes. You're going to have some fun now. You're going to get to look at some things that are already well known to exist, and I'm going to let you just think about them. The first is menhirs, which are standing stones. I want you to bear in mind that the height of a human being is only a little bit taller than where the top of the shadow is in this photograph. These are enormous, enormous stones. Do you think that maybe these enormously tall stones were built for a reason? Do you think that maybe these ancient peoples were putting them there because they got something out of it? Is it merely a religious symbol? Or was it put there because it had a technological usefulness? Do they put these headstones over your grave because it's just decorative? Or are they hoping that the headstone is going to have some sort of energetic effect that will keep your body preserved and usher you on into the afterlife? Can these stones actually create ripples of energy that will rise our frequency of consciousness, that will make us feel better, that will make us healthier, that will make everything around us more harmonious? If you think about the possibility that these stones could be put into position and change the way that your mind works, then you're thinking in the right direction. They're enormous, and it would be a lot of work to do that just for some religious symbolism. It would be much more apropos to believe that people would go to all this trouble if they could use it for something. Next thing we're going to look at is dolmens. These are stone cellars. What if you were able to build a little stone cellar, a little stone structure, get inside of it and have it harness energy so that while you're sitting in there, you meditate and it raises your vibration. It raises the consciousness frequency of your mind while you're inside. And all you have to do is sit under this absolutely colossal stone that if it fell would crush you flat instantaneously. Very precariously. This is Kilclooney in Ireland. Look at that thing. Look at how that gigantic stone that weighs more than 2 18-wheelers, at least, if not much more, if that little guy were to just fall off of the tips of the other stones, he would crush you flat. And yet there he is, and with all the earthquakes and with all the earth changes that have gone on, it's still balanced precariously right up there. And here's another one, balanced precariously. Why would they go to so much trouble? Do you really think a bunch of guys are just going to do this because it's cool? Do you really think they'd go to the trouble of getting themselves crushed and trying to precariously balance these very, very massive stones just because it's a fun thing to do? I don't think so. In this case, you see that actually part of the stone is broken off and fallen onto the ground, but the point is the same. The point is, look at what's going on there. You go underneath, you meditate, and you get charged up. Now, this is an example of a more advanced structure where a wall is built around you. And once you go inside that wall, you now have a much, much higher energetic charge. And you got a little breathing hole. This is another one from the side. Wouldn't you like to know? No, actually, I did this in a rush, and I don't know where all these locations are, but it's easy to find online. Just look for dolmens. And you'll go to Google Pictures, Google Images, Google dolmen, the word dolmen, D-O-L-M-E-N, you'll start finding these things. Barrows is the next thing. Barrows are mounds. The idea here is that you actually drill a hole into the ground underneath the mound. There is a round chamber inside the mound. This is well known. You go in there and you have a little party and you meditate. It's enough now that you can bring in a group of people. It does the same thing as a dolmen, except you're burrowing into the earth now. So here's some barrows. And this one, of course, you see how well structured it is, Silbury Hill being the biggest one. Now here's one of the entrances, which of course the English government has been kind enough to put iron bars in front of it so you can't go in there.